Let's take a look at auditing disaster recovery plans. Disaster recovery planning is all about supporting then critical business processes. We know that the business needs to be able to continue to operate even if something goes wrong. A disaster recovery plan fits together with a business continuity plan to keep then the critical business processes of the organization operational. Business continuity is more about the business. Disaster recovery is all about the restoration then of the information technology infrastructure that's necessary to keep the business going. The idea is we should have a disaster recovery plan. The disaster recovery plan is the actions, the steps, the roadmap. It's the cost-effective response we can take, first of all, to prevent any type of disruption to our IT systems, but also then to be able to recover from any type of a disruption as well. Now, disaster recovery planning is going to come as the result of what was done earlier in business impact assessment and risk assessment. Back in BIA, we took a look at our business and we said, what would be the impact on the business of an outage? We have an outage of a certain, should we say, service, building, operation. How would that affect the company? And, well, financial terms, even non-financial terms, such as reputation, customer confidence. And from this, we determine what are the parts of our business that are most important, the ones that we must recover first. So BIA and risk assessment will help us to determine the urgency for the recovery of certain parts of the business. It'll also help us to determine how much data can we afford to lose. Well, we take up backups. If we only take up a backup once a day, and we have a failure late afternoon, well, it could well be that all of the work done that day is lost. Well, can we accept that? In many cases, that depends on the type of business we're in. Is our data fairly static? Or is it something that's changing quickly? Is our data something that's really valuable, or is it something that, whatever, we can replace it? This allows us to determine the recovery point objective, or the recovery point for our data. And we'll set an objective maybe to lose no more than 1 hour's worth of data. What does that mean? That means we'd better be doing backups at least once an hour. We also determine our recovery time objective based on the urgency for recovery of our critical business functions. We determine how long do we want before we can have those critical business functions up and running again. That we could call then our recovery time objective, or RTO. So disaster recovery planning then is a process that understands what the business needs in order to operate. We realize the business, though, is continuously changing. And one of our jobs as an auditor is to make sure that the disaster recovery plans of the organization reflect the current organization, not how it was at some time in the past, for example. It's a continuous process that needs regular review and updating. We need to adjust to changing business priorities and changing requirements. Maybe the systems that were so important a few years ago are not really the most important anymore, where other systems are really part of our future, and it's that where we have to place our attention. The results of disaster recovery planning is that we have a plan. We have a plan that says, how will we recover and rebuild our IT infrastructure? How will we ensure that we're working on the things most important to the business? This means we have to understand the strategic plans for the business. And, for example, with the recovery of IT, I'm not going to recover what I have. No, I'm going to recover what I need. So we could say that, for example, right now you're driving a 2007 Volvo. If it turns out that that car was stolen, you're not going to turn around and try and replace that with a 2007 Volvo. You're probably going to buy something a little newer and more suited to what your future needs are rather than what you used to have. Exactly the same in IT. We want to replace our systems by what we're going to need going forward. That means we have to understand the strategic direction of the company, but we also have to keep our feet on the ground. We have to write a plan which will get us up and operational, minimizing the impact on the business and on our customers. A disaster recovery plan should be action-oriented. What will we do first? What are our priorities and actions we'll do in order to recover our systems and processes? So the disaster recovery plan itself could be based on, well, what's a plan for if we have an outage in this one region and we lost this office in this area? Or it could be that we have a plan based on what would happen if we lost this system. How would I recover that system? In other cases, the plan could be based on, so what would happen if this product or service was unavailable? In many ways, that's probably the preferred way to do it. Because to our customers, that's what matters the most. They don't necessarily care where our outage is. They just care about whether or not they have a product or service. So we should write our plan based on what their priorities are. Sometimes we'll see a DRP actually written for a department. How will we recover this department's processes? Now you understand, of course, in today's world, the whole world of disaster recovery planning is very much looking over its shoulder and saying, oh, wait a second, if we have to recover IT, this is just the excuse we've needed to move to the cloud. Yeah, that's maybe for many companies today the easiest way to be able to recover their IT processes with a minimal amount of outage and a minimal amount of time and effort to then rebuild all of their systems. The ultimate goal of disaster recovery planning is that we have a plan in place to enable an effective response to any type of an incident that could affect the business and of course, our people, our employees and customers and managers. In many cases, we may have regulatory requirements that say we have to be able to provide service to our customers within this time period. We may have market expectations where it's expected that we will be up and running within this amount of time or we'll start losing customers.